Great day, Facebook Live. Hey, how you doing? What's going on, you guys? I am super excited to be on here with you. Come on in, come on in. Let's have some conversation. There's some things that God is doing, and I want to talk about it. Let's talk about what God is doing at this point in our lives. God is doing some amazing and incredible things, and maybe you're not seeing it right now. Maybe you're not, hey, Dr. Carter, what's going on, sir? Good to see you. Maybe you're not plugged in and tuned into what God is doing, but it doesn't mean that God is not doing something. So listen, I wanted to talk to you guys about something that's very important: intention, right? It is imperative that you move with intention, that everything you do with intention. It is time for you to operate in a level of intentionality that produces the results that you need in your life. Yeah, I said it. Produces the results that you need in your life. See, some of you are moving, but you're not moving with the level of intentionality and intensity that's required for your breakthrough. If you think about water and rocks, let's just think about that for a minute. When water runs over a rock or hits a rock, like if it has low intensity, it takes it a long time for it to penetrate that rock and to create change and get on the other side of the rock, to permeate it, to begin to move the particles, all of that. But if the water is moving with a level of intensity and intentionality, then it can blast through the rock. Now, water seemingly should not be stronger than rock, right? But think about pressure washing. Pressure washing, if you take a pressure washer and you have it set at a certain intensity and you begin to fire it at concrete, it will begin to lift the concrete up. That's why you got to be careful. You got to know what intensity level to have it on. You got to know all of that. But what does that tell you? It means that you, as fluid as you are, as fluid as you can be, when you operate in a certain level of intensity, you too can break through and get on the other side. You too can bust through and create change. You too can make it happen because you operated not only with intensity, but with intentionality. Strong forces of water pointed at a single spot in a wall will produce change and will break through that spot. Now, is it going to break through a spot down on the other end? No, right? Because that's not where the focus is. You need to get laser focused on what you're doing, laser focused on where you're going, laser focused on what needs to happen in your life. And when you do that, it's not your job to figure out all of the specific details. That's not your job. It's your job to get clear, to declare it, to believe it, to get laser focused, and to shoot with a level of intensity that forces things to change. Yes, I said forces it. A lot of times, when I talk to Christians, I get frustrated. And I'm going to tell you why I get frustrated. Because a lot of Christians talk a good talk. Like they know all the right stuff to say. They know all the right scriptures to recite. They know all of that. But let me tell you what they don't know. They don't know how to apply the word of God to their life. And I need you to understand the source of my frustration. If you know the word and you know what God says, and you know what God says is possible, and you know what God says you can have, and you know that God is for you, and you know that God resides in you, and you know that you're God's hands and feet and movement and mouthpiece on the earth. If you know all of that, and you know the word, and you believe God for real, and you're not living a life that reflects that, that's a problem. That's a problem. Well, what do you mean, Dr. V, living a life that reflects that? I mean that your life ought to demonstrate the move of God. People ought to look at your life and see God moving. They ought to look at your life and see the hand of God. They ought to look at your life and see what God is capable of doing. They ought to look at your life and know that God is a miracle worker. They ought to look at your life and know that God is a healer. They ought to look at your life and know that God is a provider. They ought to look at your life and know that God is a way maker. They ought to look at your life and know that God is the master lawyer in the courtroom. They ought to be able to look at you and your life and know who God is. See, that's why a lot of people, man, they're not trying to do church, and they're not trying to do our God, because we misrepresent him. We misrepresent him. We make him look weak. We make him look like he has no power. We make him look like a sucker. For real. My God is not a sucker. My God is not weak. My God is none of those things. But see, because so many people have a misunderstanding of God, they think they know God, but they don't. They have a form of godliness, but they deny the power thereof. So they have a form of godliness because they know the right stuff to say, they know the scriptures to recite, they know all that stuff, but they don't have any power. They're powerless. How do you know God and have no power? Well, your understanding and your knowledge of God is incomplete, or it's misunderstood. Like you misunderstand God. Like you have an idea of God, but your idea of God is not who God is. So those are the times when we have to do self-examinations and figure out, what is it that I need to do that I might better represent this God that I love, this God that I serve, this God that I say is all powerful, all knowing, ever present. Come on. What do I need to do? Because clearly something is off. And sometimes what's off may not be you, but it may be your connections. See, we want to think that everything is just about us and we have complete control over it. Well, we do have control over it, but can I share something with you? Connections impact what God will do in your life. Your connections affect what God will do in your life. So today, as you go throughout your day, as you make conscious decisions about how you're moving with God, as you make conscious decisions about your walk, as you make conscious decisions about how you show up in the world, as you make conscious decisions about how you move, make those decisions knowing that God is looking for some people who are unafraid to show up fully, some people who are unafraid to move with power, some people who are unafraid to put it all on the line and say, for God I live and for God I die. Some people like that. Some people who won't just talk about it, but will be about it. Some people who will be a living example. And when you do that and you begin to move with intentionality, then you'll begin to manifest the promises of God on the earth. And people will know without a doubt that God is real, that God is with you, and that God is for you. In the absence of that, what do you really have? Y'all, let's make today a great day. Let's make today the best day we've had yet. Let's make today the day that we turn it all around, that we change it all, that we switch it up. That people who thought they knew us say, oh my God, well, what happened? I thought I knew them, but they're doing stuff that I never would have thought they would do, right? I never saw them going live. I never saw them having a successful business. I never saw them doing this. I never saw them doing that. Yeah, this is the day where you can do all of that and more. But it requires a choice, and it requires a decision, and it requires your intentional action and movement. Move with intentionality and watch God be glorified on the earth. You guys, I want to thank you for tuning in to Driving with Dr. V. I hope that you enjoyed it. I pray that you got something that encouraged you and inspired you to continue on your journey, to take it up a notch or two, or a lot of notches, and that you will make today your best day yet. Love you guys to life and life more abundant. Be blessed.